evening, everyone, and welcome to another PMI Dinner Meeting event. Glad that you all can make it. I'm honored to introduce our guest speaker tonight, and keynote speaker. However, I just want to give you a little feedback on how I met Kimi. I met Kimi at the PMI Leadership Institute meeting last fall in 2011, and she was one of our speakers in the breakout session. Kimi was so inspiring with her session that I had to get her to Atlanta. So, without further ado, Kimi Hirotsu Ziemski has been a professional speaker and facilitator for 15 years. As a project manager for AT&T for over 30 years, she thought she had seen and survived everything. However, she was wrong. Join us in a discussion of how her project management skills became more than a professional asset. It became a life skill that helps her every day as she dances with the disease of Alzheimer's takes the lead. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Kimi.
See if I can move that thing without breaking anybody's ears. So before I'd like to get started, I'd like to ask a question. How many here have family members that they are helping to take care of who are currently at the beginning stages, or even in the middle stages or later stages, of senility, dementia, or Alzheimer's? Ladies and gentlemen, would you please give these people a round of applause? You know, one of the things about being in project management is that we do a lot of planning, don't we? The thing is, we also know that life is what happens while we're sitting there trying to make plans for it. And I have to tell you, the kinds of illnesses that can creep into your life are many and varied, but Alzheimer's, wow, that can be scary. So I'm trying to give you an idea of why I chose this particular topic to discuss in front of project managers. I want you guys to think about what happens when you get a project. Okay, well, maybe that was a bad thing to say. You are eating, you know, it could be rude. But I want you to think about how you start out and you think everything is going to be, well, I mean, there are going to be bumps in the road and there are going to be a few problems, but by God, we will be successful with this, right? We're going to make it happen somehow. Well, that's kind of what happened when my husband and I got together. It was our second attempt at this holy state of matrimony, and we were pretty sure that there were going to be bumps in the road. Strong-willed people. I never wanted children. I was marrying a man who had teenagers. Go figure. So, which is fine, but you know, life has a way of coming along and hitting you in the face. And I have to tell you, after I got over the shock, or got over the first part of the shock, of the doctor's diagnosis of my husband, I realized that we, as project managers, are one of the few professions outside of the medical professions who are uniquely suited to help our communities take care of these people. Think about it. How many of you were in at the initiating stages of your project? At the very, very beginning, how many people in this room got to be there at the very beginning of the start of your major projects in the past 5 years? I'm seeing one hand. Oh, 2, 3. Yeah. How many of you realized you were working on a project when it suddenly dawned on you were talking to the same people every week about the exact same thing, but nobody in the organization had actually officially initiated the darn thing? Yeah, welcome to my world. Okay? And here's the weird the minute that somebody said, did you realize that Walter's kind of not connecting anymore? I said, wow, you're right. Hindsight being 2020. I looked back and I thought, oh my God. Oh my, I believe that there's something wrong here. So got involved with his care immediately because that's what you do. And I want you to think about this. All right, this thing doesn't like. There we go. These are some statistics about what happens with the population the way it is right now. Here's the problem. The Alzheimer's organization believes that the Alzheimer's patients are actually not in the greatest jeopardy of severe health difficulties. The caretakers are. And I think it's because their caretakers do not have the benefit of our training. Our inclination, if you will, to try to plan. What is risk management? Somebody here give me that charming pinbox definition of risk management. Anybody? Alright? I'm seeing looks of pain because we all know what risk management is. The minute we take a project, we start that, do we not? The minute the care of an Alzheimer patient becomes your project, your family's health, your family's well-being, and your patient's well-being become a program, because there are going to be different ways that you handle it. You have to manage the care of the patient, and you have to manage the care of the rest of the family. And if that isn't something that we project managers are perfectly suited to do, I don't know what is. If you'll pardon me, I pulled some information about Georgia in particular. Now, the number of people aged 65 and older with Alzheimer's in 2010 here in Georgia were officially listed as between 7,400 and 7,500. In 2010, the number of caregivers were 482,000 if you included all of the family members and community groups who are there to support them. Total number of hours of unpaid care, 549,192,095 hours, which comes out to about $6 billion. $6,551 million. We're actually doing more as members of the larger community than the medical profession is for taking care of family members with Alzheimer's. The thing is that this is like a typical project in many ways, and I want you guys to think about this seriously, because I'm speaking as a wife, and I'm speaking as a stepmother, and I'm speaking as an eldest child who has done this before. This is a project. At the initiating stage, just like many of our other projects, we didn't know this was being initiated. We just thought that they were sort of getting more forgetful, and that's okay, because so am I. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this. When you start wearing glasses, if you're really, really lucky, you're not wearing prescription glasses, because then you can leave multiple pairs of these all over the place. I gotta tell you, my sole reason for going to contact lenses was because I could afford the Dean Adels that I would leave in every single room and at least 2 in every vehicle, because I would be bound to take one of them with me. And by the way, if anybody goes back to the Marietta that we used to hold, you guys used to hold dinner meetings in last year, and you find a pair of really gorgeous sapphire blue Dean Adels, those would be mine. Okay? So, forgetting stuff. We're all familiar with this, and by the way, I'm also guilty of running up our utility bill, because I'd be standing in front of the refrigerator going, I know I came in here for something. But nothing looks good all of a sudden. sudden, about the time I start to close it is usually when I remember, oh, that's right, I want a creamer for my coffee. Okay? When somebody, however, is diagnosed, that's when we kick into gear and we start doing the planning. All right? A couple of things about the planning process and when you are working with this kind of thing. Number one, plan to be surprised. Now, see, here's the thing. We're project managers. No, we don't need to be told this. Plan to be surprised? Come on. When was the last time you had a plan that did not get changed by something completely out of your control? Now, if that ever happened, that would be a surprise. Right? So we're used to the fact that we will make plans, we will do the level best we can to make a plan that's going to work for our people, and then we're ready for it to be changed. Because it will. Executing on a day-by-day basis, you are going to have to execute to your plan and then make changes. So on a day-by-day basis, you're constantly going to be looking at it saying, okay, is this working, what's not working, let's tweak it, let's change it. And I'm here to tell you that at some point there is a closing. As God is my witness, if I do nothing else, if somebody in this room has a more sane process when they walk out of this room than the processes I am seeing a lot of my colleagues in here taking in Alzheimer's and with Alzheimer's members of their family, if somebody out of this room walks out and is more sane in their attempt, then I will feel incredibly blessed to accomplish something. The statistics show that every single one of us is going to be touched by having a member of our family or, God forbid, one of us will have Alzheimer's. The close doesn't come with that person's passing, ladies and gentlemen. It comes when you make the incredibly scary decision that all of a sudden that you realize the person's best care is no longer in your home and with your help and love and hands. It is when it is time to turn your care over to the professionals. That's the close of the project, that is the care of the patient. But it is not a close of the program, because as smart professionals, we are also going to have to help our families get over some of the trauma of making that decision. It is never easy. But if we don't acknowledge that closing is part of that process, lessons learned and moving on are part of that process, then Alzheimer's doesn't take one life. It takes the life of an entire family. And you know what? Your families are too valuable for that. So here's some good news. It's actually possible to tell the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. Okay? Dementia, and I will admit, I sometimes worry my friends, dementia is standing in the middle of a room for the third time in the day and saying, excuse me, do you have any idea why I came in here? Okay, but doing that all the time. They forget things. Where are the car keys? Where's the car? Alzheimer's is when you say the Coca-Cola. God, I almost said Pepsi. Oh, that would have been funny. I'd never be allowed back in the city. When you tell somebody your Coke is in the refrigerator and they say, why is it in the refrigerator? And you say, because you wanted a cold Coke. And they say, and so why is it in the refrigerator? Dementia's when they want to know where the Coke is. Alzheimer's is when they don't understand what it would be doing in the refrigerator, and that there's clothes missing, and where is the refrigerator? And what is a refrigerator? And there are all sorts of labels for it. I truly believe that one of the double-sided blessings is that because we're living longer, we are the generation that is going to be dealing with this more often. So in some ways, our colleagues and communities are extremely lucky that we as project managers actually have the tools and the skills to be able to handle this. So again, I want to say, don't get scared. If somebody just seems to be constantly dropping things out of their mental file cabinet, that's not actually that big a deal. That's a natural part of growing older. As a matter of fact, I'm going to share an embarrassment of mine. Earlier today, I realized that I had only brought one extra drive with me, and I did not want to have to give poor Greg my entire backup drive for my computer. So I went across this and I got me a cute little thumb drive. He claims that he now believes I have one that matches every outfit, because as it happens, that cute little thumb drive does match this outfit. Thank you very much. Because I look sharp in this outfit. And I take my presentation and I put it on that thing, and then I look at this little bitty thing about that big. And I say to myself, so you're going to lose that thing in that bag. Put it somewhere where you can find it. Yeah. Over there in that pretty little skin bag is a MacBook Pro, because I put it in the bag. I couldn't find it, and I couldn't remember where else in the bag it might be. So I went upstairs and got my MacBook Pro. Right after I was explaining to them that I bought this cute little thumb drive, I opened up my little pen case to get my lipstick, and there was a cute little purple thumb drive. And as I was reminded, it's not really knowing where it is, it's remembering where it is. It happens. We get a lot more information going across our brains these days than we used to. Okay? So I want you to think about how that makes the whole idea of whether it's just, hey, I got a lifetime of memories and a lifetime of information and a lifetime of processes in this brain. I am occasionally going to misspell something. There. Versus, wow, this is going to be a long-term project of caring for an Alzheimer's patient and caring for the family. And by the way, please don't forget to take care of you. Because one of my biggest gripes with project managers is we don't take very good care of ourselves. We take pretty good care of our teams sometimes. But if a call has to be rescheduled, we're the ones who go without sleep because we're talking to India and London on the same calendar day. I don't know how many of you have noticed it's Thursday, but you've been running on 4 hours of sleep for 6 days. Okay? I know that's not unusual, so that's one of the things I want to say is you really need to take care of yourself as well. Big, big deal. If you don't know anything about a project and what you're trying to accomplish, you don't know anything about the technology, you don't know anything about the people, as project managers, what do you do? This was not supposed to be a hard question. You don't find somebody who does know, right? I mean, don't you hate that part of the pin log where it says, experts. Get quotes from the subject matter experts. I always figured that was a fancy way of saying, hey, your Rolodex, girl, start dialing. There's somebody that you know who knows this better. You know what? We've spent our entire professional lives finding the right people to answer the questions, trying to figure out, go to somebody and say, hey, I need help with this. If he doesn't know, he'll point me in the right direction. You know what? That is something that I want you to think about. You who are already taking care of an Alzheimer's patient in your family, a loved one, and those of you who are going to, in the next 5 years, find that you are somebody joining us in those ranks. Get help. Don't even hesitate for a split second. If somebody says, I'm so sorry, what can I do to help? Have a list. All right? Have a list of things they can do to help. Up to and including, could you just take them for a walk in the park? Okay? Because guess what? For those of you who think that the worst moment in your life is going to come when you have to take your parents' car keys or your spouse's car keys, can I just tell you? Don't worry about it. The medical community and most of the legislatures in these United States have taken care of that for you, because if they get diagnosed with mild cognitive damage, the DMV is put on alert. If they get diagnosed with Alzheimer's, the DMV automatically suspends their licenses to a final word complete action. So what I will say is this: as project managers, we do a lot of planning. Plan for the worst and get ID cards for your elderly relatives, or perhaps failing in health members of your family, because they will no longer be able to use their driver's license as an ID after a certain amount of time, because the DMV is not going to renew it. Okay, so they need a non-driving version of their ID. This is very important. Better get them a passport. Lasts for 10 years before you have to renew it. And it's just fine as ID. This is going to be important because you are going to be the custodian of the IDs. We went to Arizona for Christmas and New Year's, spent 13 days in a part of the state, which if you translate it into Japanese means the part of your body that you sit on. Honestly, I think my aunt has the most amazing sense of humor, because I said, you settled where? She said, I settled in a town called Aho, Arizona. I said, Auntie, I don't speak much Japanese, but I remember when that means. She goes, yeah, isn't that funny? I said, yeah, but it's a joke that only the two of us get. She said, I don't care as long as somebody else gets it. It's a snowbird camp. Are you guys familiar with that term? Snowbird camp, okay? There are $250,000 RVs in this place, and basically it's a great big tree. But this one doesn't get any signal except Verizon, which is the other reason why I have two cell phones. And there, I think when I rolled into the camp, I dropped the age level by about 10 years. So, I can't say I raised the IQ any, though, I have to tell you. Get in there, and we roll up to our holiday home, and my husband is having a ball, which is kind of nice. Because normally if you take somebody who's got this condition out of their familiar environment, they get a little nervous and they get a little agitated. He was going to see his Aunt Satya. We love Satya, don't we? Yes, we do. Where are we going again? We're going to Satya's ranch, the ranch that she lives on. Oh, okay. Because we love Satya, don't we? Yes, we do. If you do not have a tolerance for repetition, I would advise you please to get it. All right? Of course, on the other hand, given the amount of times he and my aunt have argued in the past 30 years, I'm just glad that he now loves her. There are silver linings in this all over the place. You guys would be amazed. So we get there, and we get settled in, and everything's fine. We spend 13 days, and he only gets lost once. It's the only time I'm actually gone from the ranch, and I get this phone call. Hello. Kimi, the first thing I want you to know is he's fine. Oh, God. Now, you see, I got my children as teenagers, so this is my first experience trying to keep track of a happy-roll. You have to understand that. And I said, what happened? He said, he decided that he no longer knew how to handle the TV, so he went to go find you to find out how to handle the TV. Now, you have to understand. We're 8 miles away from Route 66. We are on Route 66, but we're 8 miles away into the mountains from Route 66. But he remembered I was going into town, which is, by the way, about an hour's drive. And so he was prepared to walk, because he got the concept I was going to town. He just forgot that it was just a bit of a walk. So you want a community of people who are supportive. I asked for help the minute I got there. I said, if you guys ever find Miss Jones was wandering about, could you please let me know? Here's my phone number. Seriously. So who finds him? The only guy in the place who cannot read the card because he's legally blind. I'm like, my God, I thought I did everything I needed to. He gets Walter on the back of his ATV. He trundles off to my aunt's house. He says, I didn't find your nephew. She said, Al, I thought we asked you to stop driving that thing. He said, it's daylight. I can see the rocks. She said, well, then why didn't you call Kimi? He said, it's daylight. I can see rocks. I cannot read the card. Oh, okay. So I get this phone call. He's fine. And I'm like, oh, my God. Now I know why all my friends giggled when I said, well, at least I didn't have small children, because you know what? The gods have a way of punishing you for being that optimistic. I now have a 5-year-old and a 72-year-old body. Ask for help. People are more than willing to help. They are not only more than willing, but they're gratified to help. It is like building a karma bank, if I may be a little colorfully rude. We talk a lot about how it takes a village to raise a child. Trust me, it does. So a couple things about this. I also want to point out to you, even if you have somebody who is able to stay at home and help take care of that person, in your smart planning, plan for in-home care. Give the person a break. It is virtually impossible to go more than 10 days without losing part of your sanity if you try to do this alone. So again, I say, reach out for help. A couple of other things. I will admit it, to a certain extent, I'm a little bit of a chauvinist. I don't know how to be a plumber, and I don't want to. Okay? I'm just going to put that out there. Don't want to learn how that toilet works, I just want to make sure it works. I have the names of 3 plumbers, 3 electricians, and 3 general handymen in a list for emergency purposes on my refrigerator door for the caretakers. Because you know what? If that bathroom is flooding, I do not want them to have to wait until the first woman returns their phone call and says when they can be out where I live, which is about 3 clicks away from the boondocks, according to my friends in San Francisco, who still think that the greatest thing I did in moving out there was make sure there were enough bathrooms so that when they finally survived the drive out to where I live, they can do something about all the Starbucks they picked up on the way out to where I live. Right? So the thing is that is one of the things. A person who is getting forgetful and senile will forget where the bathroom is. A person who is developing Alzheimer's will be so fascinated by things disappearing into the toilet that they'll start stuffing stuff into it to see what else can disappear in there. And I'm here to tell you that the little stuffed bear that I got when I was in the hospital didn't go down the drain. I came home. I've only been gone for 4.5 hours. What the heck could possibly have been the problem? And I did not go back into the office or the master bedroom, so I did not know that it had flooded. There were 3 inches of water in my master bathroom, in my bedroom, and in the office. Here's the cute part. And I know that this may sound like I lost my mind, but I thought it was truly adorable. Do you know what he did when he found that the water was coming in from the toilet that he stuffed with my stuff there? He did not like the colleague of mine, by the way, he gave me the bear, so I think there's something more than Alzheimer's going on. I just tell you that. He said, I never really liked that guy. He rolled up the area rugs and stacked them very neatly on the porch outside so they wouldn't get wet. But when I came home an hour later, he didn't tell me that they were flooding. So when I walked back there after having been home for about an hour, I think I said something terribly unprintable. I'm surprised that Karen didn't call me and say, Kimi, I had the weirdest experience, I think I heard you swear. Because not only did I say it unprintably, but I was trained in the old school before we had things like this. And I used to sing, and basically as long as the house holds under 1,500 people, I don't usually need one of these. So I said something unprintable, we go to figure out, finally get the plumber there, and he pulls this thing out, and I was told with a very straight face, well, Kimi, you told me never to put anything down there that wasn't paper. Scope, definition, ladies and gentlemen. Can I tell you? Requirements, definition. Yes, Walter, you're absolutely right. And here's the kind of paper that we are allowed to put in it. This, holding a soggy copy of the Contra Costa Times first page section, is not. This is good. Not so much. Is that where the water came from? Yes, dear, that's right on it. That's where the water came from. Ooh, better not do that again. Yeah. I said, you know, honey, I really like our plumber, but I really wasn't planning on sending any more kids to college. Even Renee's. A couple of things there also. One of the reasons why I'm telling you that the program and project of your family's health when you have an Alzheimer's loved one is so important is because the care of the Alzheimer's patient must have a close. There is going to reach a point where because they are not able to articulate it to you, you cannot help take care of them and their medical needs. People die of Alzheimer's not because they forget to do things, but because their brain's damage means that their brain forgets to tell the rest of their body to do things. All right? You're not equipped to put an intravenous tube in because they cannot remember how to swallow. You're not equipped to figure out what to do if they have stopped opening their eyes or if they've stopped closing their eyes. And all of a sudden they have a huge problem with their eyes because they haven't moistened it in 3 or 4 hours. Okay? You need at that point, because that is also the time when their personal memories are much less straightened, you need to be willing to close the part of the project down that is, I take care of him in our home with our family members. Or you will sacrifice the rest of the family to this disease. And I gotta tell you, it takes enough. It doesn't get any more, not out of my house, and not out of yours. And yes, it's tough. But you know what? If you don't have my phone number, I'll give it to you. You call me. You come to that decision and you say, Kimi, you said it was tough. You did not say it was going to be excruciating or heartbreaking. You call me and you yell and you scream. And then we'll help put arrangements together. Because if you give up your life and your family's lives to what Alzheimer's is going to do to the patient, your loved one, then you've given the disease too much. Even those things that we absolutely have loved doing in our professional lives, we knew we had to close. Of course, those things that were purely, I'm going to use a technical term here, those projects that purely sucked. We were kind of happy to close that out, but we didn't have the emotional attachment that we do here. I want you to know something. At some level, when Alzheimer's takes hold, you have already lost the person you knew. That person will change. The man who could not, now I told you there were silver linings, so here's a couple. The man who could not get into traffic without screaming at every other driver now sits beside me and says, wow, that's a gorgeous color of red on that car. Should that car be allowed to be red? Because doesn't it go real fast? Yes, it goes real fast. And it's not the car that's going real fast, honey, it's the driver. Oh, well, then he's an idiot. And I have to tell you, driving with somebody like that is much nicer than, what the heck? Hey, you! It's just so much easier for me for us to get from point A to point B these days. Anger management issues, not a problem anymore. What can happen for some people is they do a complete reverse of their personality. So according to my sisters-in-law, all of whom are significantly older than I am, he's reverted to the nice, sweetly affectionate little boy that they grew up with. And I don't know what happened between then and when I got him, but I firmly blame his first wife. I figured that's safe. She knows she's going to get blamed for everything anyway. The thing is, as project managers, we're used to looking really horrible situations in the face and saying, okay, I'm here to fix this. That's what a lot of our projects are they not? We're there to fix things. We're there to make things better. We are used to walking into horrible situations and fixing it. And we can do this too, as long as we don't close our eyes to the fact that now more than ever, our professional strengths will be one of our greatest support mechanisms. What we know how to do when we walk into an office, or we walk into a boardroom, or you walk into an IT shop, what we know to do there, that is what will help us get through this too. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I guarantee you it's not going to be easy. I have scared a 95-pound Rottweiler who lives next door. I did not mean to. But he got adopted by the family next door, and apparently where he used to like to sit, notice I said used to, was right by the fence that is right by my office, where I go in because it's the furthest away from Walter's family room. And I have stood there in that office, and I have screamed, I have thrown things, I have written unprintable things on the whiteboard wall of my office. And I had a couple of good cries a week. But you're going to get through it. As long as you remember to call on all the tools that you have at your disposal, not just places like the Alzheimer's Association, not just things like that. And by the way, there will be moments that you will treasure. Now, in 1987, my family, my extended family and I lost a lot of members, and Walter and I went through hell together. And I will never forget, for the rest of I remember thinking at the time, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to repay this man for how he held on to my sanity when I wanted to let it go. When my beloved grandfather passed, I was pretty sure that I should have gone with him, because I'd never in my 30 years of life at that point been without him. Walter pulled me back from that brink. Now it's my turn. So a couple of other things that I want to share with you guys. There are all sorts of organizations out there, and here's the good news. Just like all sorts of ways that you can manage a project, there are going to be organizations that are going to be there to help you that you're going to prefer not to use. That's okay. Thank you very much. Go to the next slide. If there's anything I can personally do, call me. All right? It's important, not just because I believe passionately that the patient who is involved needs you better when you're feeling better, but because it goes back to that horrible, horrible phrase, lessons learned. Not lessons recorded, ladies and gentlemen, not something on a piece of paper somewhere, but lessons learned. Go find somebody who's done it before and let them help you over the cracks in the pavement so that you don't trip and fall and hit your head. All right? Because all throughout the process, imagine any project, don't we try to figure out, okay, who's done this before? How well did it go? How can we do it better this time? So please, make use of that. They say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to care for an Alzheimer's patient. Don't isolate yourself. People want to help. People frequently don't know how. Honestly, I thought that the people who were laughing when I went to my first support group and somebody in the team group said, how can I help you? And I pulled out this list and I said, well, and I went down the list and they were all roaring with laughter. And I said, what's so funny? And she said, what do you do for a living, dear? I said, I'm a project manager and leadership speaker live. She said, well, I figured you had to be one of those. She said, you know, we were all so upset when this happened that when people said, what can I do for you? We just said, oh no, that's okay, I'll call you, I'll let you know. You made a list? I said, well, of course. Would you like to see my risk management? She said, yeah, I think I might. So I have to tell you, one of the things I found was that Walter likes to empty the dishwasher. Still, don't ask me why. It took me 2 years to get him to load the darn thing. But he likes to empty the dishwasher. Here's the thing. I don't know about you, but I kind of like knowing where my coffee cup is. In a more specific thing than in the kitchen. Okay? And somehow, nestled into my Paul Revere 2-quart pot is never exactly where I expected it to be. So I came up with an idea for a product, and then now I'm pretty much selling it at cost to other caregivers that is just a way of labeling all your cupboards and drawers. Why? Because if you just tell him where it belongs, he's happy to put it there. But if he's left on his own, or he feels like it's too much trouble to ask, he's not going to. But here was the big bonus. I thought this was great. My caregiver stopped calling me in the middle of whatever I was doing and saying, excuse me, ma'am, but where do your glasses go? Because it's right on the front of the cabinet. Now I have these beautiful maple cabinets, okay? I did not want to be putting sticky notes or worse. Somebody said, well, why don't you use thumbtacks? And I looked at her and I believe she is still reeling from that look. I learned it from the best. My mother was the dragon lady in the household. She could quell the utility man in our neighborhood with that look. I learned that look. I used it for one of the rare times in my life that day. I said, you are not putting a thumbtack in my maple hardwood cabinets. Something had to be done. So I came up with something that did it. Somebody else said, well, why don't I just use a labeler? I said, that's fine. I'm also not peeling labels off of my maple cabinets, but yours, you're welcome to do anything you want. Okay? Go to people who've tried to do this before and find out what works. Last but not least, we know that nothing stays the same. All right? So it actually is going to be a little bit easier for us to make the changes in our homes to accommodate the early stages of this, because it's not a big deal. It's just a kind of door. I'm hanging something on it now. That's okay. And if truth be told, frankly, my kitchen never looked like it was going to be on the cover of Beautiful Homes anyway. You know, there's always something dirty or, you know, something out of whack, or when I want to cook, all the spices are wrong. That drives my daughter nuts. I like to do that once in a while. I consider it karma and payback. Everything goes on the cupboard. This can be gotten through, but only if you make it a project that you're willing to close, and you make sure you call for help. And I'm here if you decide you want to call me. Thank you very much.